Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Sunday, September 5th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Oregon game is in 6 days. The game against Michigan in 83 days. Most of week one of college football is now in the books. There are still a few more to come today and tomorrow. There are 3 games today involving HBCUs. I'd encourage you to check one of those out. That's kind of a fun, subsection of college football that I think most people don't pay enough attention to. And then tonight, Notre Dame visiting Florida State. That should be another good one. If you want to hear all about Saturday's games, Tony Gerderman and I will be dropping a week one recap show on the Buckeye Weekly feed a little later on today. But this morning, I wanted to take another look back at the Buckeyes week one win over Minnesota. My guest today is Buckeye Scoop's Bill Greene. He does something very smart every week. He watches the game live, and then he rewatches it the next day before posting his thoughts online. That's something probably we all could learn a lesson from. Bill, can you let people know why you do it that way?
Well, when I watch it the first time, I usually watch it with family and friends, kind of like everybody does, So then the more I wait till the morning after, and you can run through those things pretty much in an hour. Blast through the commercials, get through the halftime, and just go play to play to play, and look for just what you want to look for on that play. You can get through that in about an hour. I usually have a legal pad in front of me with split offense and defense on each side of the pad and everybody's name on there that played. And then I just put a plus or a minus, on each guy that I'm looking for on that play. Or, if nothing's there, nothing's there. I do this with high school games too. When I go to a high school game, I film every play, come back the next morning and rewatch every play. And if little Jimmy's got 12 pluses by his name, and little Freddie's got 3 minuses and no pluses, then Jimmy outplayed Freddie, and I don't care what their ranking is. So I do the same thing, with the Ohio State games, and that's kind of how I'm no coach. I didn't invent football. I don't know any more than anybody else knows. That's just how I do it, how I've done it for 20 years, and that's my process.
But one of the things that struck a lot of people, I think, was how deep the Buckeyes were rotating on Thursday.
Wow.
I mean, for example, it seemed like every single healthy defensive back who was here for the spring was in that game at some point in meaningful snaps, not just garbage time. Why do you think Ryan Day and his staff were rotating guys that much on Thursday?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it looked like a high school scrimmage where you don't care about the outcome, or it looked like when Ohio State used to have those inter-squad scrimmages Tressel would have, and they'd let the media watch, and nobody cared about the score. You just wanted to see a lot of guys get to play. That's what it looked like. This is a game, it's a 7-point game, or a tie game there in the second half, and a loss conceivably ends your season. And when they want to run the clock out in the end, they just have Marcus Crowley do it. No big deal. To me, it looked like Ryan Day knew he was going to win that game the whole way, because that substitution pattern is not something you normally see in a real game. This was not OSU Akron or Bama, playing Stetson. I mean, this is a real game against a real team on the road, a little bit of weather going on, and it's a battle. You're in a game there. So I don't know. Ryan Day knows a lot more than I know, and he sure coached that game like he knew he could win it at any time. But I did not expect to see that kind of substitution pattern. Not at all.
Yeah, that was really interesting, because if you look at the schedule, that probably was the 3rd or 4th most dangerous team on the schedule this year. I mean, first week on the road, weather was a little iffy, and
And especially, I mean, you can see it at the half. It's like, this might not have been what we thought we'd have. So let's go with our dudes in the second half. Let's stop all this mass substitutions. Let's go with our guys. We got to win this thing. I know we wanted to play everybody. We want to give everybody a lot of minutes. We can't do it. We got to stick with our. No, they didn't do that. I mean, they were subbing into the 4th quarter of a tie game. So, he knows what he's doing. I mean, he doesn't lose many games. He doesn't lose many regular season games, at all. So, he knew what he was doing, and they got a lot accomplished. A game like that, somebody had asked me, is it better to play a game like that against Minnesota close to the wire, or is it better to play Akron and beat them 52-0? And the answer is, if you win the game, you definitely rather have a game like that. And if you get beat, no, you shouldn't have scheduled it. And we're, so that's my answer to that. But no, I was totally stunned at all the guys that got to play. But I think Ryan Day's thrilled that everybody got to play, and he's 1-0. So I think, checked off a lot of boxes there for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes.
One of the boxes that got checked was CJ Stroud. It was the first half was a little up and down, and then it seemed like he maybe sort of settled down after halftime. What did you think we learned about him on Thursday?
Well, I love seeing quarterbacks struggle, and that might be just a little bit of masochistic personality I have. I don't know. I love seeing him struggle early because you're going to struggle at some point. And I'd rather see him struggle right now. Let's learn who he is and, what kind of ticker he's got in his chest. And he struggled. He's on the road. His team's getting beat, and he's not playing well. And then, that's tough for a young kid like that to battle back from. So we learned a lot about CJ and his makeup. He came back and played a really good game in the second half. And I think we learned a little bit about Corey Dennis, too. Corey Dennis is a very new coach, young coach. And Ryan Day cannot spend, his entire time of a close game in the second half coddling his quarterback who's struggling. He's got to coach his team. Well, that has to be Corey Dennis. Corey Dennis has got to bring CJ back from the ledge and get him to play good football. That's why he's a quarterback coach at Ohio State. And that's exactly what he did. So credit to a young coach in Corey Dennis and a very young QB in CJ Stroud that, everything worked out well for Ohio State in the second half. And I was really encouraged to see CJ battle back from a really rough first half. And, a lesser guy could have fallen apart there and ended up getting benched. We've seen it before where quarterbacks can't pull it out and they keep throwing picks and they keep missing wide receivers, and you got to bench them. You can't lose the game by worrying about CJ Stroud's feelings. So I thought it was a plus for Corey Dennis and CJ Stroud.
There are a bunch of spots on the field where you kind of look at Minnesota's talent and that's not gonna work against Ohio State. But I mean, the offensive line coming in, I think we all thought, that's an offensive line that's going to be able to give Ohio State a challenge. How do you think the Buckeye defensive front held up against that Minnesota offensive line?
I thought there was good and bad. I think the pass rush could have been stronger than it was. They could have played the run a little better than they did. Ibrahim's, he's on pace to get 200 against them if he doesn't get hurt. But, they had good moments too in both areas. And I felt the two things that put 31 points on the board were not getting off the field on third down. Okay, that was, I think Minnesota was 9 for 14 on third down and 1 for 1 on fourth down. I think something like that, but high conversion rate. You got to get them off the field. You can't let them just drive down the field and keep converting these third downs. So that hurt. And then the second part was red zone defense. You either have to force field goals or get out of there with 0. You can't give up 4 touchdowns, So if you force Minnesota to come up empty one time, then maybe force a couple of field goals another time, and they end up scoring 20, you don't feel so bad. 31 looks bad. I don't think the overall defensive performance was bad. I think third down was bad and red zone was bad. And I think that contributed to 31 points getting thrown up on the board.
There was a lot of panic online during the game about the defensive backs giving up a bunch of completions. You didn't seem to think that this automatically meant it was going to be 2020 defensive backfield all over again. So can you maybe talk some people off the ledge a little bit on that?
Well, I think Minnesota threw for 200 and some yards in the game. They didn't throw for 500. It wasn't an Alabama performance. I think the plan was with those young DBs, those guys have never played before. So conceivably, they could have given up 500 yards. So Burke and Cavazos and Watts, I think the whole goal was don't get beat deep. Don't let them throw the ball over your head. If they're completing these 8 and 10-yard passes, we're still in the game. But you start hitting those 60, 70-yard bombs, and you got a problem. Those kids have never played before. Do I think they were championship quality great? Do I think that defensive back performance beats Clemson or Alabama? No, it's not going to. But I don't think they're planning on Ryan Watts and Cavazos and Burke being the guys you're going to defend Bama with. So were they good? They were okay. When you look at it for guys, the first time on the field ever, they were really good then. So there's two ways to look at it. Overall scheme, just evaluating their ability, you could see a lot of potential there. And, they were lucky they went up against a quarterback, not the greatest, a wide receiver core that's not good at all, and in an offensive system that's like right out of 1976, So if those guys are on the field against Oregon, you're really going to learn a lot then. I don't think they will be, but if they are, totally different animal going against that Joe Moorhead offense and that Oregon speed. So, but for what they asked those guys to do against Minnesota, they did their jobs. They didn't lose the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of a weird circumstance where you've got Seven Banks out, Cam Brown out.
Right.
But I don't know if people really understand how crazy it is that Denzel Burke, as a true freshman, started game one. I mean, that was on the pregame show, Tony Gerderman and I were talking, and we were asked, who was going to be the corners that start the game, next to Seven Banks, because we didn't know at that point that Seven Banks wasn't officially going to play. And I said, the only one that would really surprise me is Denzel Burke, because you just, like, that's not realistic to expect a true freshman to just start at corner game one. I mean, what do you think it says about his potential, what his path could be? He's not outstanding yet.
No.
But it was game one of his true freshman year. He's not supposed to be outstanding yet. No one's outstanding yet.
No,
what does that what does that tell you about where he might end up as a player?
Well, yeah, that was a better performance than Eli Apple could have given as a true freshman, than Marshawn Lattimore could have given as a true freshman, than Garen Conley could have given as a true freshman, better than Sean Wade could have done, better than Jeff Okudah could have done. Those guys are all draft guys. Damon Arnett didn't do that as a true freshman. So, I mean, the potential is there for Denzel Burke. He can flip the hips. He can run. He's really combative. I mean, and I like that. He was competitive as heck, and they were going at him. And like we talked about CJ Stroud, mentally, you got to bounce back from that. And when you're playing out there on an island on the corner and they're coming at you, and they had like 3 or 4 plays in a row where they went right at him, you're either going to fold or you're going to battle. And Denzel Burke was competitive and combative and a fighter. And, future's very bright for Denzel Burke. I mean, no doubt about it. So, I mean, you got to be thrilled with that kid.
One of the other things you do that's really a useful tool is you track snap counts. So there were a couple numbers that really jumped out to me from the snap counts. I mean, 6 snaps for Craig Young, 4 snaps for Jack Sawyer. I mean, both of those guys played less than Steel Chambers on defense. And
yes,
but before the game, what kind of odds would you have gotten on Steel Chambers plays more than Craig Young and Jack Sawyer?
Wow.
Probably pretty long odds. So why do you think that was? And do you expect those guys to maybe see the field more next week? Do you think it was a scheme thing? I mean, do you have any sense?
Yeah, for Jack, I mean, I think his value right now is going to be against a passing team. I think you can just put him on the edge and let him go. He is not physically where he's going to be. He's 6'5", 240 probably. When he's 6'5", 265, then he'll be playing every down. So I think that was the part of that. Craig Young, I have no idea. I expected to see him a lot in that game, and we didn't. Steel Chambers, I didn't think we would see until the Akron game. I thought, the guy's just learning a new position, but he played. Demario McCall played a ton in that game. And the fact that a lot of people don't realize he played a ton in that game speaks well for how Demario played. Because, man, it only takes a couple plays on the bad end, and you remember they were out there. So it was crazy. I the whole time I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I watched it. And then, like you said, when you go back and actually chart the snap counts of how many snaps each guy got, like I would have said Travion Henderson got 20 snaps or 15. He didn't. He got 7, but he just stuck out so much, that it seemed like he was out there the whole game. So, I mean, that was crazy. I mean, I saw a lot of things I never expected to see in that game. So, especially from the substitution role and who played and who didn't play, it was pretty crazy.
So overall, did you come away from that rewatch feeling better or worse about that performance than you did watching it live?
Probably the same. I mean, I don't get too wrapped up in week one. You know what I mean? Last year, nobody was all that high on Alabama early in the year. When Mississippi put 700 yards on them and 40 points, nobody was thinking, here's your national champions this year, and they're going to win both games by a combined 60 points. Nobody, it's too early to worry about that. You just got to win right now. You know what I mean? You cannot take an early loss, and then you got to win out because you're not getting in with 2 losses. Nobody ever has. So I don't get too wrapped up. You know, we saw this a couple of years ago at the FAU game when, you know, it looked like, oh man, we're bad. And it was like, no, you're not. You're going to the playoffs. So I don't get too wrapped up in it. I don't get too worried about it. You know, you just can't lose. As long as you're not losing, you know, no team today in early September is going to be who they are in November and December. So don't worry about it. I mean, you know, just win and move on. Ohio State obviously has a ton of talent. So does Oklahoma, you know, Bama, the usual suspects. You know, they're not going to be what you see today. So get there, get to the tournament, and then be at your best when you get there. So I don't get wrapped up in week 1. I don't get wrapped up during the games like some people do after every play. Like I don't. Like you're not going to see me on a message board during or after the game when everybody's losing their minds and either good or bad. I like, you know, give me 12 hours and I'll be there and I'll let you know what I think, but not immediately after or during.
Well, Bill, thank you for joining me. Always enjoy your insights on this kind of stuff. And if you enjoyed this show, you would absolutely love our Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. That was just a small part of a couple of Bill's posts this week, but there is so much more from him and so much more from the rest of our great team of insiders that's only available to our members. You get insight and analysis from Nevada Buck, Kirk, Mark Givler, Alex Gleitman, Dom Smith, Tony, Ross Fulton, me, Kevin Noon. That's right. Kevin Noon's on the team now. So yeah, we have a huge team of insiders that give you insight and analysis you just can't get anywhere else. So sign up today at BuckeyeScoop.com. It's going to be a fun week leading up to that Oregon game. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Should be a fantastic week and a fantastic, just fantastic to see a full horseshoe again. That'll be wonderful. So sign up today at BuckeyeScoop.com. Also make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. If you're on the YouTube channel, just hit that little bell thing to subscribe. Or at the end of this video, there will be a little thing that pops up with the Buckeye Scoop logo on the right-hand side of the screen. Just click on that. That'll subscribe you. Then you get notified every time we post a new podcast, every time we post new interviews with players and coaches, pre-game shows, post-game shows, you name it. It's all there. YouTube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Subscribe, and then you'll never miss a thing. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.